All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I have, I believe I have almost everybody on mute. After I get done, we can go off of mute and ask any questions. I'll also check the chat line and see if anybody has any questions. So looks like we have Oscar back from a little hiatus and a few others. So, okay, what we're doing is we did in January, we did a day on working with a buyer. We did a Friday on working with a seller, and we did a Friday on working with a tenant landlord. And it seems like we are working mostly with buyers. So just wanted to kind of go over probably inside of 40 minutes, A to Z on working with a buyer. And like I've always said, and nothing will ever change, when the phone rings, you got to answer it. When you answer it, you basically want to get the phone number, verify that they text. You want to absolutely get their email. And after you get their email, you want to establish a rapport on the phone with them. You want to ask them if they're in a long-term lease, if they're month to month, if they have a home they have to sell. You could put them on speaker. You could send them 3 lenders. You could send them Brooks. He's got 15 people that work for him. The goal is to get them pre-approved, but not to be pushy. And you know what? You might have to risk showing somebody not knowing if they're approved or not, but you always want to get in front of them. That's where the goal is, to get in front of them. So you set up a search. We know that after we send them our electronic business card, you should be able to send them something like a YouTube video on yourself. You should have a little home buyer packet that's got on the outside something generic. It's got a bio, it's got a resume, and then it's got your information about brokerage services. You could have one for a buyer and a seller. So you could have a buyer one where after the IBS, you have a template of the buyer rep agreement where it just says your name goes here in the paragraph 1. You could have in your seller template a listing agreement. I think you should put in both of those. Either party can terminate with 1-day notice in the little special provisions part of those 2 documents. And that way it gives the buyer and the seller some freedom and they don't feel like they're being cornered. And then you've got to have emotional intelligence and you've got to establish a rapport with them. So at some point you're going to have a property that they want to look at. And let's just say hypothetically that they call you and say they want to look at my house. So we're going to act like the home is a phone call that comes in. They give you 8005 Fall Meadow. You don't know whether it's available or not. You want to go ahead and let them know that you're going to meet them tonight at 6 o'clock or Saturday at 10 a.m. You don't even find out if the home's available yet. You then, after you make the appointment, you log into MLS, which is matrix.netrix.net. I put this website on my phone and save it as a home screen. When we log in, generally you're going to get to a place where there's 14 boxes, 7 on top of 7. To get to the MLS, we hit this one in the left corner. Once you select it, you're going to be in the MLS. What we've done to try to conform in our company is we've tried to set up everybody's MLS very similar. I can't overemphasize how important this little square is right here, okay? This is the search square. And you can pull up any property that's in the MLS if it was ever in the MLS since 2003. So if somebody called me on 8005 Fall Meadow, instead of doing this search tab and finding it, which is very cumbersome and hard, all you do is, if you can't do it on your own and you call me, I'm going to tell you to log into MLS. And again, this is called the dashboard. So watch when I go here, Matrix dashboard. Okay, so this is your dashboard for reference. On your dashboard, all you do is go right here and type in 8005. All you have to know is the first letter of the street. You hit enter, and it's going to go back to 2003, and it's going to pull up any home that's in the MLS since 2003. Then you scroll down, and you're going to find it. Well, you can obviously see that there's nothing available. So let's say that instead of my home, it was Flora. Well, you can see that Flora is pending. So it could have been where it's still showing active on Zillow or Trulia. So again, if I was at the dashboard and somebody called me on 8005 Flora, I just go 8005 tab once, hit F, That is dummy proof. And then you just hit return and you've got all the homes since 2003 that have ever been listed. Let's say it was Flora, because that makes my case even easier. You can see that it's pending. So they could have thought that it was active because of the MLS. It doesn't quite update at the time that Trulia and Zillow.com. They don't change to pending on Zillow. They're just active. So that's why I tell you to always make the appointment for 8005 Flora on the phone. Set the appointment. Then when you find out it's pending, you're going to click on the MLS number. It says right there, ML number. So you click on the MLS number, and this is commonly referred to as the agent full report. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to see that Brad Tiffin is the agent. If I needed to text him, that's the number to see if it's available, but I know that it's pending. So I know it's not available anymore because it says pending right there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, Fort Worth, 303,000, and it's a fairly new home. So now I'm going to go and hover over the search tab, and I'm going to go residential quick. This is going to get me into my MLS search criteria. Over here, I'm going to go 0 dash, and I'm just going to go 310. I'm going to go over to city, and I'm going to type in Fort, and a WOR will get me Fort Worth. Once it highlights, I'm good. And then over here in year built, I'm going to go 2010 and a plus sign. You can see there's 28 matches. At this point, I'm going to hit results, save, new auto email. 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 And booyah, I'm ready to send this search to this guy. So I'm going to hit create a new contact. Let's say his name is Oscar. Let's say that his email is oscar@oscartorres.com. Oh, I'm just going to abbreviate it for training purposes, o@d.com. I'm going to hit save. In here, I'm going to put homes. I'm going to scroll down. Before I hit save, which will effectively email it, I'm going to hit ASAP so that after I send this initial search to Oscar, anytime a listing gets inputted that fits his criteria, he'll get it immediately that second that it's inputted in the MLS. I hit save and boom, I just sent it. So I'm now going to text back Oscar and I'm going to tell him, hey, you called on 8005 Flora. That home is no longer available, but in your inbox, I've sent you everything that's 0 to 310 in Fort Worth that was built 2010 and newer. Please confirm when you get it, and I'd be honored to still show you tonight. I'm available this weekend as well. So the buyer replies back after they got your electronic business card. Maybe you left them a video message. Now they've confirmed they got the email. Now when you log back in to MLS, Oscar's name will be right here. Your phone will also have gone off because I have it set up to where your phone goes off when a buyer favorites a home. So basically, now we're going to act like it's a day later and Oscar has said he does want to look at that property. You go back into MLS, and again, you're at your dashboard, and this is what it always logs into. And you're going to type in 8. Now you can actually type in FL because you know it's Flora. And then you hit enter. And there it is. Now let's say that this home was active, okay, for training purposes. He wants to look at it tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's Friday, right now at 12. I'm going to click on the MLS number. Again, this is always called the agent full report. A couple things I'm going to look for. Number one is underneath the picture of the house, this clock, if I click on it, it'll show me the whole history of the home since 2003. So you can see there's a shitload of things that have happened on this property since 2003. Going back here, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to text Brad at 713-205-2380. Hey, Brad, this is Doug Smith with DHS Realty. Is 8005 Flora still available? And if so, how do I make an appointment? All right. So that's one thing I'm going to do. Then I'm always going to read this property description. Because if you look right here, it says directions, model home on the right, but there is no phone number for the model home. So I am going to have to get that from Brad. He doesn't show how to make appointments, so I don't know how to make an appointment. And so I'm going to have to absolutely get that information from Brad with Legend Homes. That might be his cell phone, and he's probably the on-site salesperson, and he has MLS access. So he is going to text me back and okay the showing. I'm then going to text back my buyer and say, hey, we're good to go. I'll see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And by the way, I've got my whole day set for you. So I sent you, I think, 28 homes. If there's any other properties you want to look at, just let me know, and I'll make an appointment for those, and we can knock them all out. I can probably show you 10 homes tomorrow if you wanted to knock more than just this one out. He replies back and says, no, I'm good with Flora. So now tomorrow comes, I'm going to leave knowing that this property is in Fort Worth. I live in Plano. If it says it takes me 40 minutes to get there, I'm going to probably leave an hour and 15 minutes early, or, an hour and 15 minutes from, 30 minutes from when I need to be there, because I like to be there, make sure I didn't get any traffic. There was no train crossings. I like to get there and feel comfortable that I'm not pressured. And so I wait out front, and eventually Oscar pulls up behind me. I'm going to get out of the car, and I have my little home bar packet rolled up, and I have a mask on because of COVID, and I get out, and I'm like, hey, Oscar, I'm Doug. This little packet on myself has got my resume, references. Let's go take a look at the house. And then I'll look at him and go, are you good with the mask? And if he doesn't have a mask on, then I'll take mine off. If he has a mask on, then I've already had it on when I get out. So you always want to be respectful to your client, and you want to go to what their comfort level is. As I'm walking up to the house, I can't tell you how many times, and you'll always know that what I tell you, I do myself. As we walk up, I am going to explain what this backyard faces. Now, if I click on the address of the home, it is going to show me what the backyard faces. And all I need to do is, once the map loads, I just need to zero in. And so what it looks like is, obviously this is north, okay, up here. The home, that's the street. It's a new build, but it looks like the house will have a north backyard. Why is that important? Because when you're walking up to the home with the buyer, you've already looked at this, and you know that a home can be set two ways on that lot. One where something protrudes in the backyard, and you put that protrusion on the right side, which means there's going to be a lot of sun hitting from here directly into the backyard. Or you can put the protrusion on the back of the property over here, and that means that that barrier that jets out of the back of the house will shade this area. So what I've always trained on is we want a northeast exposure in the backyard. That's this area. So we would want the house on this side as far as close to this road right here as possible, so that this side, which is a north-south home, this side would be shaded in the summer. That is so important, because you will talk to a buyer walking up to the door, and they will tell you they've never heard that before. All right, so as you walk in, obviously you can see this is a two-story when it's built. If you see here, you can see that there's a game room on the second floor. That's what the 2 means. They wanted to make sure that we knew the master was on the first floor, so that's good. And that means the bedrooms are most likely split. There'll be bedrooms upstairs. Those are also the types of things that you want to tell a buyer, because when you show this home and it's a 2-story, for fire safety, the bedroom doors upstairs should be closed. And that means that there's 2 units. And when the buyer puts the unit on downstairs, in weather like we've had the last 2 days, they'll put the heater on, possibly 67 or 68 or 70. That means for sure the heater downstairs is going to click on when it's 20 degrees outside. Heat rises, and what you don't want in that house is the thermostat in the hallway, because as heat rises, that thermostat's going to get cranked up to 100, and it's never going to click on. And if the bedroom doors are closed with kiddos inside those rooms, it'll be freezing, because the thermostat has only gauged the hallway temperature. So if the home is being built, you want to tell the builder that you want the thermostat put on the inside of a bedroom where the door can be closed, and that way heat rising won't affect the thermostat. Also, you want to talk about watering your foundation and that our houses move in Texas. So if you mention those three things, I can almost guarantee you that the buyer will look at you and say, I've never heard that before. So now the buyer, after looking at it, looks at you and says, I think I like this home. What would be the next step? Well, on this home, you would ask them if they had a builder's contract or they wanted to use a new home contract in the MLS, in zip forms. But we know that we mostly use pre-owned contracts. So let's say that it was the builder said, oh, y'all go ahead and use a 1 to 4 family new home contract or a 1 to 4 family existing. Then we know that we would next need to do a couple things before we get out of MLS. We've already printed this. This is the agent full report. All you do is above the picture of the house, next to listing, you click tax and you print the tax roll. So together you have the tax roll and you have the listing. That's all you need to write an offer. We're going to get out of MLS and we're going to go to texasrealestate.com or however you get into Zip Forms. When you get into Zip Forms, you're going to log in. And at this point, we know that at some point in Zip Forms, the screen turns blue. Again, when you get back into Texas Real Estate, it'll now have your name because you've logged in and you'll hit Zip Forms. When the screen turns blue, we're looking for one tab and one tab only, the new button. And it does take a second for the blue screen to turn. Once the screen turns blue, I've tried to simplify this, and at the end of the day, I can't make it any more simple than all you do is look for one tab, and it's called the new tab. So you click on it. When you click on the new button, you have 5 boxes. We don't even care about the last 2. We only care about the first 3. It's either a seller, a buyer, or lease. So we know that Oscar is a buyer, so we pick purchase. The next screen, we simply name it. And then you always select the dot next to residential to just simplify. You never have to worry about anything else than tabbing that dot next to residential. Then you simply go down to templates and you'll have 3 or 4 options and you'll look for buyer template. You'll pick it, you'll hit save, and the next screen you'll be staring at a white summary square. You'll see it right here. And I say go 2 tabs to the right to documents and click it. Once you do, you have all your forms here. So obviously to make Oscar from a customer to a client, we need to get the IBS and the buyer rep. So the IBS is done. I don't even have to open it, and neither do you because I've templated it. It's completely filled out. You'll open the buyer rep. When you open the buyer rep, you're going to put Oscar's name here. You're then going to go down to paragraph 4, and I swear to God, this is all you have to do on this form. Click on the blank and put today's date. Click on the second blank and put the end of next month. Hit save, and you have just filled out the buyer rep agreement because the rest of this is pre-filled. It's done. You don't have to do anything except get it signed. So in order to get it e-signed, which is what we absolutely have to learn when we work with a buyer because everything is e-signed, all you do is whatever form you're in, you simply hit e-sign in the left corner. When you hit e-sign, it says Digital Ink 2.0, just leave it. And if you don't have Digital Ink 2.0, select it and then hit select documents to include and check mark the IBS. So you have 2 documents. That's what we got to give to somebody. You already gave it to them in your packet when you met them, but now you're going to get it initialed and the buyer rep will turn them from a customer to a client. You hit close, you hit next, and now you have to pick Oscar as the buyer. Watch when I try to check mark him. It won't let me because I've got to put his email in there. Now it will. Then I hit close. Then I hit next. And all I do is wait. And all those forms are going to load on the left side with a little menu legend on the right at the top. So if I had more than one buyer, all I'd hit with this drop down and it would pick another person and I would pick them. but there's only one buyer. So I always like to scroll down and make sure that there's a prompt for Oscar to sign. You can see there is there. There's a signature there. But looky there, on the IBS, there's no initial prompt. So all you have to do is hit drag and drop. With his name there, you are dragging his initial prompt. And then you want to drag the date. You then simply hit next and send invitation, and I just emailed Oscar. So now I need to go back and actually write up the offer. So here I am at the buyer rep agreement. I hit the green back button. It's green. And now I'm going to open up the contract. All right, let's say that he's going in at $300,000 on that house. Well, let's say that the seller is Seller Sam. I'm going to go ahead and act like that's the name that was on the tax roll. But that's why we have the tax roll. We have the tax roll because it says the seller's name. I always like to use Oscar's name based on what is on the pre-approval. And let's say that he's buying it for we're offering 300 with 20% down. I then need to go to the paragraph 2. I'm looking at the tax roll because I printed it, and it says that it's lot 6, block H, ABC subdivision. Okay, so ABC phase 1. And when it says addition right here, it's the same thing as subdivision. Okay, and then it says, what's the city? Let's just say it was Dallas and it was in Denton County. Then it says, what's the address? Let's just say it's, well, we know it was 8005 Flora. All right. You always want to look at the remark section on the listing to see if anything in B and C is excluded, because B and C, that is what stays without us having to ask. So what you'll notice that's not in B and C is a washer, a dryer, and a refrigerator. So you don't have to exclude those. They don't stay anyway. So you want to read this so that you're knowledgeable of what stays and what doesn't stay. And then you go to paragraph 3. Well, if we know that he's making an offer for 300 and we know he's putting 20% down, there's an easy way that we can figure out the down payment. 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6, so it'd be 60,000. Now, in order to find out how much the loan is, hopefully most of y'all know that it's $240,000. But if you had a $300,000 offer price and you were putting 20% down, well, if you put 20% down, you have 80% left. All you have to do is 80% times 300 or 8 times 3. And that's 24. So here you would put 24, 3 zeros. When you tab, you have the 300. So again, just to refresh, paragraph 1, I got the seller's name from the tax roll. I got the buyer's name from the pre-approval. Paragraph 2, I got the legal description from the tax roll. Paragraph 3, A plus 3B always equals 3C. I already have third-party financing marked. Down here, paragraph 4, that would be if there was a lease of people or things. So if there was a current tenant, not the seller that's going to be a tenant after closing, but if there's a current tenant, then you mark this. If they have solar panels, you mark this, or any of these items here that are listed that could stay with the house because they're leased, not owned. Now you go to paragraph 5. Paragraph 5 is title, earnest, and option. So as you fill it out, you're going to go back to the listing, and you're going to scroll down, and right here you can see that down at the bottom, this information here, sometimes next to preferred title company, right here, there's a name. So let's say it says Chicago Title. Well, that means that in here, you're going to write Chicago Title. Now, commonly misunderstood is when it says comma an escrow agent, that sounds like a human, but it's not. The escrow agent is actually the title company. So we don't ever want to put a name of a human right here. Okay. But you deliver it to Chicago Title. They act as an escrow agent at their address is 123 Easy Street. And then this tab right here, it's a $, that's going to be the earnest money. I already have $100 in there for the option with 10 days. So nothing else needs to be filled out here. Title, title company, title address, earnest money, already have the option in the 10 days. If you want to mess with those, that's fine, but I already have them there so nobody gets confused on earnest and option. Don't worry about this paragraph. That's it. This paragraph here is if you're putting additional earnest money down, and generally that doesn't need to be filled in. You go down to paragraph 6, and again, you're going to put the same title company. That's in 5. Usually you just keep scrolling because I've had this filled out to where it protects you. Here we're asking for the seller to find their survey. If they can't find it, the seller buys a new one. It's only if the seller finds the survey and it's deemed not to be good that the buyer pays it, okay? From there, you go all the way down. Either the house has an HOA or it doesn't. Most homes do, so I have it marked there is an HOA. Most of the time, you have the seller's disclosure, so it's already marked, paragraph 7B. And then 7D says the property's as is. But of course, we're buying an option. Paragraph 7H, I've always templated $700, and that's the same in y'all's contracts. And then, of course, if you have a child, parent, spouse, you put here, buyer is related to buyer's agent. Okay, that's good enough if Oscar was my child or my parent or my spouse. Here, you just click on the closing date. And again, it'd be good to find out from the lender if you put February 28th, that they can, you know, if they can execute that. If not, then you want to change it and put the day that the lender says, as well as, you know, find out your buyer, what their story is. All right, it might be the 18th of March. If the seller is going to stay in the house after closing, you will physically, in paragraph 10, uncheck mark closing and funding and mark according to a temporary lease. But I have it marked according to closing and funding. Paragraph 11 is where you put a fact or business detail. I usually leave that blank. Not a big fan of writing anything in there. And paragraph 12, in the last 14 months, I haven't seen many people use it. That's where the seller pays closing costs. You always want to get that figure from the lender so that as to protect yourself. So you simply would ask the lender, hey, what are the closing costs my buyer needs to be paid by the seller? The lender says $52.12. You put $52.12 right there and you're done. And when I go back up there to paragraph 10, you'll see there's $52.12 there. From paragraph 12, you basically go all the way to 21. I've already put your email there. You put your buyer's email here. Okay. Already have the 2 most commonly used addendums, third party and HOA addendum. If there wasn't an HOA, you would unmark it there. And you'd also have to unmark it in 6E2, which you'll see right here. So that would have to be unmarked. And that's one of the things I do that a lot of people don't see when I review your contract when you send them. Sometimes you accidentally leave this, but you unmark this. So I have to find out which one is the truth. Not the truth, but you know, which one is going to be correct. And then I usually tell you to skip all the way a page and a half. And again, right here, I've tried to make this as easy as I can. On the left, you don't have to touch it. On the right, what you're going to do is you're going to put on the right side, you're going to put everything equal to the length of the left and not go any further. Okay. So let's say it was every holiday. Okay. Let me show you on this printout. Okay. Here's the bottom. This is the most important part right here. This is important to fill out that page. So that's the broker name. That's the broker license number. That is the listing agent. That is the listing agent's license number. That's the listing agent's email. That's the listing agent's phone number right there. Over here, you have the supervisor. Above it, you have the supervisor. Below it, you have the supervisor's license number, which that's obviously messed up. That's not correct. And what you'll see is that on this page, all those answers come from there. Okay. And when you're done, you should have this line filled out and you should have this line filled out. And everything in between, so that you look on this side and you go, damn, there's nothing missing. Everything's the same over here, at least filled in, but obviously it'll be different. The only time that you never have anything on the left side is if we're in an intermediary. And that means that you mark this box, and DHS Realty would be here, the broker license. So you would move this to this side. The listing agent would be whoever the listing agent is. And if you were the buyer's agent, you would be down here. So this whole side would be filled in if it was an intermediary, and this would be blank. But most of the time we have two brokers, which means that both sides will be filled out, and I've already filled this side in for you. Okay. All right. So now we want to save it, and we need to send it to Oscar to sign. So I'm going to hit e-sign. Now, before I hit e-sign, I'm going to hit the back button, and I'm going to go, I need to go ahead and fill out the third-party financing. And when I open up the third-party financing at the top, I already have it filled in. All you need to do is put the loan amount. That's going to be whatever is in 3B boy of the contract. Hit save. And now you hit e-sign in the left corner. When you hit e-sign, you're going to have Digital Ink 2.0, and then you select other documents to include. You're going to add the contract and whatever addendum's appropriate. And all you do is scroll down to see those. You hit close, and then you hit next. When you hit next, you check mark your buyer and hit close. And then you hit next. It's almost ridiculous how simple it is, but it just takes doing it. And you can make up Daffy Duck as a buyer and always make practice scenarios. And then all you do is hit next and send invitation. And I just sent it to Oscar. All right, so now I'm going to text Oscar and let him know that he should have gotten 2 emails from me. One, I'm just going to say officially makes me your advocate. And then I'm going to tell him that the second one basically, hold on a second. I'm going to tell him that the second one basically is the offer. Okay. And so once he texts me and goes, I signed the buyer rep agreement, well, then I'll get it back. When he signs the contract, I'll get it back. I'm going to save it as a PDF, and I'm going to send it over to that agent who was in the MLS. Okay. And the agent that was in the MLS, you saw where to find that number, and it was right here. So I'm going to text Brad and say, hey, Brad, this is Doug with DHS Realty. I just sent you an offer on 8005 Flora. Just want to confirm you got it. He says he did. I follow up with the pre-approval letter, and we start a negotiation. At some point, we're going to either get it accepted or we're going to move on. Let's say, hypothetically, we get it accepted. It's not accepted when he calls me verbally and says the seller signed. It's not accepted when he told me that he went and got the contract and it's in his passenger seat and he's staring at it. It's not signed when he texts me a bunch of love emojis and wants to go out on a date with me because he says the contract's executed. It's only done when I physically have it in front of me on my email, period. So be leery of when you start having an agent that's countering back to you verbally, because when it's a verbal counter, it is useless. Nothing is in concrete until we have it physically via email. Once I get it back physically via email, above Oscar's signature on page 9, it says executed this blank day of blank month of blank year. I need to put that date. If the other agent forgot to do it, then you do it. Somebody's got to do it the day the contract's last initials and signatures were done, where the contract is executed. And that is always day 0. Your next job is to get the earnest and the option to the title company. The easiest way to do that is going to always be to email the title company closer. And if it's a title company that you don't know, well, then what you're going to do is you're going to text Brad, the listing agent, and say, hey, what is the email of the title company person? You're going to send a copy when you're with the buyer. You're going to send a copy of the executed contract dated above the signature page on page 9, along with all the addendums. And you're going to send it to the buyer, yourself, the title company, and the buyer's lender. And you're going to introduce everybody. And you're going to say, hey, title, Will you reply back with wire instructions for my buyer? And then your buyer has 3 days to wire the earnest and the option. If your buyer doesn't know what a wire is, then go pick a check up. But there is no excuse ever to not get a check, either earnest and option together or a wire to a title company in 3 days at midnight in the DFW area, much less anywhere in the state of Texas, because I can Uber Eats a Taco Bell across the street from me, or in another state or another city. I can sure as heck get earnest and option to the title company. It can be one check, it can be 2 checks. It can be 1 wire, it can be 2 wires. But at the end of the day, it goes to the title company, the earnest and the option. And make sure you get it there inside the 3rd day at midnight. Then your job immediately after you send that email, which is on the day it's executed, is to call an inspector and set up a home inspection. And most home inspectors have a key card to get in, so you don't have to be present. You do want to let the buyer pay for that with a credit card on the phone, because when a buyer doesn't pay that and they drag ass on getting the earnest and the option to a title company, they have no money in the game. And your job is for people to start making the commitments to buy this home because you have an executed contract. So get the earnest and the option to the title company, usually by wire, it's easy, and then get a home inspection done. And Mark Serios, he does home inspections. He's great. He's in our company. Give out 3, give out him, just get it scheduled. The buyer pays for it over the phone with a credit card. Mark will set up the inspection time. He'll go there. You don't have to be there. After he's there for 3 hours, he'll send the report to you and to your buyer. And then it's a negotiation where you'll probably have to pull out the amendment that was in your documents, and you'll have to negotiate repairs or an allowance. At the same time, you'll be telling your buyer that they need to follow up with the title company. And of course, you sent the executed contract to the title, the lender, the buyer, and you copied everybody. So you know everybody has the executed contract. You're like a quarterback. Once a week, you kind of touch base with everybody, or once every 3 days, just make sure everything's going good. And the buyer needs to get homeowners insurance. And that would be the same type of insurance that you would see with Farmers, Geico, Progressive, USAA, Navy Federal. And they need to get that insurance and have the insurance call and get it hooked up with the lender. And we also have Alan Badger. He's with Goosehead Insurance, and he's a great sponsor, and he's got the same hours I work, 5 a.m. to midnight. So he's always going to be available, as well as all the sponsors that we have. That's going to be what your main job is going to be, to quarterback everything. After the inspection report is put to bed and the amendment is done, you still have to follow up about once every 3 days with your buyer. You want them to know that you haven't dropped the ball and that you didn't disappear just after the contract was executed. You're going to go ahead and get in touch with the title company, and you're going to set a closing time. You're going to set a closing time. And I like closings in the morning so that we never have an issue with the property funding. So I will always schedule a 9 or a 10 a.m. closing. And what will happen is the day, about 3 days before closing, your buyer will get a CD, which is a closing disclosure. It'll tell them the total amount of funds they need to bring to closing. It's a great time to remind the buyer that they don't bring a personal check for $56,000. It's got to be a money wire or a cashier's check. If it's a cashier's check, it's made payable to the title company. If it's a money wire, then it's obvious. It's going to be wired to the title company. So they're going to bring that in either of those 2 forms. And then obviously the day of closing, you're going to do a walkthrough. Now, if you do a walkthrough and there's something not right with the house, don't go to closing. You need to text the listing agent and get that squared away, because the day you go to closing with a promise it's going to be done after it's funds is the day you probably screwed the pooch, because nobody's going to do anything once they've received the monies. So you always have the most power to walk away or to not go to closing. And if you say, yeah, well, I'm not going to go to closing until this is corrected, you might do an amendment. There might be some check made out to the buyer in the form of a cashier's check for a fence that blew down, or something that happened from the storms. Especially if we have closing on Monday and we had these storms today and yesterday, There could be something where if the power was out, that a pipe froze, and when you go do a walkthrough the morning of closing, the whole home is flooded because the PVC pipe thawed and there's the pipes broke. So you always want to do a walkthrough, always. And I always like to do it an hour before closing. Then you're going to tell the buyer at the house, if everything looks good, to follow you to the title company. It would be a great time to not have any goofy stickers on the back of your car saying that you voted for Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Beto O'Rourke or Ted Cruz. No one cares anymore. So take that crap off the back of your car as you have a buyer follow you to the title company. The last thing you want is, after working with them for 40 days, for them to get pissed off at you because you voted for somebody that they hate. So don't do that. As you go to the title company, you will have reminded them already that they need a copy of their driver's license. When you walk into the title company, you'll introduce the buyer to the title closer, and you're going to be ushered into a little room as the title closer goes and makes a copy of the driver's license. In the room, when the closer comes in, they're going to have a stack of papers about 1.5 inches high for the buyer to sign. Almost all of it is a bunch of BS, just saying that, hey, Oscar, this is you signing that you're Oscar. Hey, Oscar, this is signing your Oscar. This is the third form saying that you're Oscar. This is the state of Texas saying you're Oscar. This is the United States government saying you're Oscar. And then it boils down to 2 documents. You got to know what these are. The first one is a note, easily explained. It's a promise to pay. It's going to have the interest rate, their name. It's going to have their interest rate. It's going to have the address, when their first payment, their last payment, and usually there's stapled to it or right behind it an amortization schedule. Then after they initial and sign that, they move it. And the last document that usually some title closers don't know how to explain is the deed of trust. And the easiest thing to say on the deed of trust is, if you don't pay, you don't stay. And if the buyer says, what do you mean? You need to tell them that they got to pay their property taxes, they got to pay their mortgage, they got to pay mandatory homeowners, and anybody that does general contractor work on their house that they don't pay. You pay those 4, and nobody will ever take your home away, and you don't even have to worry about this document. So it's basically, it says if you don't pay, you don't stay. As they initial it, that should be the last document. The title closer gets up and they go to make copies of everything that the buyer signed. It's a perfect time to look at the buyer and say, hey, Oscar, I just wanted to compliment you on, you've accomplished the American dream. I mean, how incredible that you now own a part of America. And I just want to give you some advice so that you can maintain that asset, because it is an investment, and you put a down payment. God forbid something happens to you. I think it would be good for you to think about getting a will so that you know where your property goes if you were to demise. And it's not a topic that I like to talk about, especially Oscar. He's like 20, 22 years old. But you know what? Life is so random that it's a serious conversation to have with your buyer. And it shows that you're thinking more than just about the commission that you're about to receive. The next thing you do is you tell them to go to Home Depot on the way back to their house, go to the garden aisle and get a soaker hose. It's spelled S-O-A-K-E-R, a soaker hose. And you basically, I priced them the other day. They're about $18 and they can get 2 of them. And they can also get a Y connection, which is $5. They screw it onto their faucet. It makes 2 outlets. And now they can put that soaker hose about 5 inches away from their foundation. And if they are cheap, they can not get a timer for it and just turn it on every 3rd day in the summer when the news starts in the evening, and go turn it off when the weather starts, because that's about 20 minutes. Once a week in the winter, just turn it on for 20 minutes and they should be good, because there's still a lot of moisture in the air in the winter. That will maintain their foundation and hopefully preserve their asset. And then you want to tell them that they're going to get a bunch of junk mail in the next 2 weeks. And a lot of these letters that they get are going to claim that for $95, some entity will file their homestead. And that is something that the homeowner can do for free, and it costs them nothing. They do it once and they never have to do it again, and it's free, and they can now do it in Texas the day that they close. So they don't have to wait until January 1st. And then of course you'll tell them that their family, that the same fidelity and passion and tenacity that you use to represent them, that you would demand nothing less than that you be representing their family, because you were the best agent in the DFW area. And hopefully they feel that way. So that's when you ask for business, but you do it in a smart way and just go, hey, I just want you to know, like, I'm so passionate about real estate. It pours out of my body. I breathe it and bleed it. And I just want you to know, like, I'm not going anywhere. And whether it's 6 days, 6 months, or 6 years from now, or 60 years, once I'm gone, somebody will take the mantle, and they will be leading with abundance, and they will be fighting for your family and for your grandkids. And so I just want you to know, I want all your real estate. And I hope that you feel like, that's justified because of the way I represented you. And when they hear you talk with that kind of passion and that kind of confidence, and then of course you're going to follow them on the greatest contact manager known to man, which is social media. And that's why you follow them on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and you send them your YouTube videos. And again, when you have a business page and a personal page on Facebook, what you do is you can go on the business page and you can invite everybody that's on your personal page, and then they follow your business page, and that's unlimited number of people, whereas your personal page is limited to 5,000 people. So the goal is that social media is it's the future. And we already know that, but video messaging, I can't tell you that how important it is to leave video messages, because people start to feel your soul. They are able to see your personality come through with the way you're talking. And you can't really misinterpret a video message like you can a text message. And God forbid that you end a text message with 3 periods or don't know the difference between there and there, and you misspell something. It just doesn't look professional. There is no need for 3 periods after a sentence or to misspell words when we have devices and different avenues to find out anything we want to find out in the world. There's just no excuse for really to have errors like that anymore. So that's really the whole A to Z on working with a buyer. And one thing that I was going to say, I thought that we might have some questions, but it looks like Jennifer had a question, but then she just left. But anyways, some of y'all have made comments about the Op City in the group me. And again, Op City is it's just a means to have a floor. It's not going to make you break you. I've been on the phone with them, and every time there's a transaction in Op City, I do all the paperwork on my end. I copy all the checks that are written. I get the main check, the check to me, the check to you, and the check to Op City. I scan it, I scan all the forms, and then I copy you on the email I send to them. Every once in a while, they have 2 departments. They have people that are smart, and they have people that are stupid. And sometimes the people that are stupid in accounting, they believe that I didn't send them the right documentation. And after I call the broker line, they go, oh, you did. We just need to get in touch with accounting and get it fixed. So by all means, there's an agent number, and then there's a broker number. All you have to do is let me know that I need to call the broker number and find out what's going on with your account, and I'll do it. Over the last couple of days, I've waived some of the fees on transactions if I see that it's not worth it on taking the $225 where your commission gets lower, specifically on somebody that had a $20,000 sale on Op City. So it was under 150,000, and we know 30% goes to realtor.com. So 3% of 20,000 was $600. After 30%, which is 180, was taken out with my 225, the commission was only $195. I always approve the CDAs first. So when I looked at it, I deleted my 225, and her commission went to 405. So this company is not about $100 or 225 here and there. It's about a longer term play where I want y'all to stay and be happy. But at the same time, we do want to make sure that we're paying our necessary fees to keep the firm going. I have one of the lowest compensation plans in the state, but it does require y'all to stay up to date on the $100 a month. And also, you've got to know that your MLS is due every quarter, and your board dues are due every November, so that I'm not the one having to constantly remind you guys, because the email I get is the same email you get, and the same email you have is the same email that you had your license sent to. So it's almost like when it's a good email, it's you'd like to read it, but when it's a bad email, sometimes people let it go. We've got to pay those MLS dues and a board dues to keep this company moving forward. And I have a few agents that are inactive that are just getting their SAE hours. So by all means, also remember that for SAE, your first 2 years, you need 98 hours. There's a class called a GRI that is offered at all the boards. And if you follow every title company and every board on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, you'll see them advertise for a GRI designation. That gets all your 98 hours, your first 2 years. After your first 2 years and 98 hours, all you need is 18 hours, okay? Which is 10 hours just randomly, like the class on learning how to use Instagram. And then you always need the 4-hour legal 1 and the 4-hour legal 2. I do want everybody to obtain their broker's license. That means that you basically have to get 2.5 transactions over 4 years. So 2.5 per year in 4 years. And I would love to help you study for your broker's test. And I want everybody to get their broker's license. Number one, you always have the ability to start your own company. And number two, it just gives you the freedom, if you ever feel like you've been mistreated, that you can start your own company. It's a great designation to have, and it truly gives you the freedom. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, and I will be available for the rest of today, this weekend.